Hello, welcome back to the Evergreen RX. I'm your host, Hayden, licensed mental health therapist, Cancer Moon, and the first to get deep at any party. And today is a well check. All right, guys, it's time. Let's do our little well check appointment. Let's talk about coping. This topic is so vast that I'm not even sure what I mean when I say coping, because my therapist brain all day, every day is like defense mechanisms, like what's going on, what's blocking us from feeling, which is, I think, another word for coping, but they're kind of different words also. So I'm talking about both. And really what we're talking about is healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms, which I think is the real difference. Because it's great to have your repertoire of coping mechanisms when you're in an emotionally distressing situation or just as a part of the maintenance of life. I'm doing my yoga practice, which is just a good healthy routine, and it helps me, but also in moments of emotional turmoil or struggle, it's something I can turn to that helps me cope in the moment and maybe come back down to a manageable level so that then I can deal and not be too overwhelmed. So, such a vast topic. I'm only answering 5 questions here today, but I'm sure there's so many more, and I will continue to talk about this. I'm pretty sure I have an episode from season 3, maybe, about defenses and how they show up in therapy. So I'll have that link below because I think it's related. So if you're wanting to know more specifically about how your defenses are maybe showing up in your personal relationships or in therapy and might be holding you back from some healing or emotional attunement, then that is a really good episode for you. But today I'm just going to go through rapid fire on 5 questions that I thought were really good on the topic. So let's get started. Okay, so first person, come on in. What do you do when your usual self-care tools just aren't working? Freak out, frankly. I'm just kidding. But actually, I think it's pretty common that we are going to run into some roadblocks or bumps when maybe a normal coping mechanism or tool that's like our tried and true isn't cutting it. And I think when life gets busy or chaotic or our energy or focus drops, then some of the strategies that we normally use that keep us afloat, keep us feeling pretty good, or like we can manage things, they start to not really fully meet the task. And I think there's 2 reasons why this can be. One is just pretty mundane, like maybe we're talking healthy coping mechanisms, like you go on a daily, mental health walk and it clears your head. Sometimes we can just get kind of bored with things, so they're not really like doing the same for us. It's maybe time to mix it up a bit or incorporate other tools. Things can get monotonous, or like our commitment or interest fluctuates. So I think that can be part of it. The second, which I think is more relevant to this question, is at times when we're more dysregulated and maybe not as capable, or we don't have as much bandwidth to reach for our coping mechanisms, especially if we attempt and it just doesn't seem to be helping. Say you're dysregulated by recently being laid off from your job, and normally you sit down and you journal and you get your thoughts out, and it really, really helps calm you down and ease your anxiety. But in this given circumstance, every time you sit down to journal, your mind is just all over the place. It's not helping you. Maybe it's making things a little bit worse because you feel like you're just spiraling down through your thoughts. And so that's when we can get like a little bit panicky, because what do you do then? And I would say to get creative, and what might work for you in that phase might not look like your ideal, self-care or coping skills that you would want to be using. So, like, this is kind of a weird example. I don't know if it's going to make much sense, but for the past week, I've been a little bit in a funk. I've just been more tired. My body has been more physically hurting. And my best coping to just be able to like get through the week, show up for work, show up for my responsibilities is that at night when I'm home, I eat an early dinner, and immediately after I lay vertically on the couch, like sometimes even between bites of eating my dinner, just because it feels good and it eases my body a little bit. Maybe it's not the best for digestion. It's not my like ideal way of nourishing my body, but it's just what's working for me right now. It just helps give me that little extra boost to chill out and be able to recharge enough to be able to go into work the next day. So, I wouldn't even call that creative. It's just been like kind of out of necessity. It happened, and then I was like, wait, this actually feels great. So I'm going to keep doing this until I feel like I've recuperated enough that, I can maybe eat dinner normally and sitting up and help my digestion out in that way. I also think you can pull in other people. So if you like to draw, then maybe inviting a friend over to just sit in the silence with you and draw together. It might help with the co-regulation piece. So, the coping mechanism normally might be like a self-regulatory tool. You can do it on your own, and it helps calm you down or soothe you. But if that's not cutting it, bringing somebody else in and like their nervous system can really help you in settling yours maybe a little bit more effectively. It can also maybe give you more of that extra push that you need to show up for yourself during this phase. Okay, next question. How do you cope when you feel weak for even needing to cope? Oh my God, girl, we all need to cope. Like, and this is where I kind of get hung up on the word a little bit, because sometimes I think coping, it sounds like there's something like very specific and acute in that moment that you're like having to deal with. But this, I mean by just like, we all have to have skills to exist in this world and move throughout our life, or else we would be a mess. Can you imagine if I didn't have strategies to get myself to stop from crying when I'm about to go into a session with someone? It's not weakness. It's just, this is what is appropriate or is called for, or, how we have to show up socially or show up for other people in our life, or if you have kids, you just sometimes have to do what you can do to have enough gas in the tank to show up in your life. And you're doing it all the time anyway. That's another piece of this. Like, you're still doing it, whether intentionally or not. Like, people cope, these, the strong kind of masculine, toxic masculinity thing of like, I don't need to feel my feelings. Yeah, they're still coping, maybe through alcohol or avoidance and distraction through video games. Like, that still is a coping strategy. So it really is unavoidable. And you can just think about it like the best tools and strategies at your disposal at any given time that you use to help yourself survive. Dramatic. Oh my God, that sounds really dramatic. But it's true. Next question. What's the difference between coping and avoiding? I thought you'd never ask. This is so good because it's such a fine line, and I think can only be understood on a case-by-case basis. My biggest quick and dirty distinction would be look at the context. If we find ourselves chronically relying on something, probably we're avoiding. If I love to run after an upsetting conversation with a loved one, great. That's a really helpful coping skill. Shake it off, get the energy moving, reset your stress cycle. Awesome. If I'm running 10 miles every day, what am I running from? I'm kind of kidding, but like not really. I think that the context is so important because, like I said in the previous question, if you're in a meeting, if you're at school, if you're with a child, some places where like a large emotional expression would not be appropriate, that is a great time to pull out whatever skills you have to just do what you need to do. But if you're in a safe environment with trusted other or loving person, or maybe you're like in therapy and you're still not really dropping down into your emotions and into what has been affecting you, now that might be avoidance. That might be a bit of avoidance. So yeah, it's really about chronic reliance. Things like humor too. Humor has its place and sometimes can be a really great tool to just bring ourselves back down, remember like the common humanity of it all, and take the intensity off a little bit. And we all know those people that they just can't stop making jokes, even in a serious moment, even where we're trying to have some heart to heart. It's just nonstop. So just keeping an eye on, like, we want our coping skills to remain fluid and flexible and adaptable and nuanced. If you weren't able to do something, if you didn't have your journal with you, would you be okay and be able to figure out a different way to emotionally regulate? And just knowing the spaces and contexts in which letting them go is adaptive and healthy too, because there's room for both. We do sometimes have to dive into what we're feeling, even if we're stellar at keeping it at bay and just kind of feeling great because we're not letting ourselves, slow down enough to really feel. It's going to catch up to us. Things build up. We need both sides of the coin. And the last thing I'll say about this is, like, an example is, I would say what I consider a relatively helpful, healthy coping skill of mine is cleaning and organizing. However, sometimes I start doing it with a little bit of a neurotic intensity, and that's a signal to me that I might be avoiding something a little bit deeper that could be addressed. Is it easier for me? Does it feel like I have more control to just focus on like scrubbing my whole house from top to bottom because maybe there's a different area of my life that I'm not feeling so much control or ease in, and I would rather not focus on that. Okay, next question. How do you deal when your body is holding the stress even after your mind feels better? Good question. I love this one. There's a really good book by Emily and Amelia Nagoski that's called Burnout, and I'll have it linked below, but it goes a lot into the science behind our stress cycle and sometimes that disconnect we can feel in the mind versus the body, and all of these different ways to work with it and to be able to excise that energy so that we don't get burnt out. So I can't recommend that enough, but the spark notes of it is that it can take our body a little bit of time to acclimate. So give yourself that space if possible. Like after a good cry, sometimes you can feel relief and you're like, all right, cool, ready to move on with my day. But maybe give yourself a little bit more time, like even just a minute or two in that space of relief, and feel into what it's like in your body. If anything comes up, maybe any like discomfort with feeling that relief, give yourself some time to work through that and to actually realize what's happening, that you just were able to let go of some stress And so now you need to acclimate and to integrate that a bit before just moving on to your day. So you can take that pause and feel into your body. Oh, can you allow it to grow and expand? That's always really nice too, to see if you can increase the amount of relief that you feel. You maybe take some stretches, or you can tense and release your muscles intentionally. That can help kind of signal to your brain that it's okay to physically relax. Also, maybe taking a big sigh, a big exhale out. If our exhale is a little bit longer than our inhale, that signals to our body that we can start to relax and slow down a bit. So you can do kind of manual things to trigger the reaction in your body to release whatever leftover pent up stress there is. I also like to repeat some mantras to myself sometimes. This is like a newer thing. I'm like, I like to do this, and I've done it like twice. But I do like to repeat mantras like, I am safe, I am okay, this moment is safe, it is okay for me to relax, the threat has passed. Whatever works for you, whatever wording works for you, to just repeat in your head and let yourself know that you don't have to hold anymore. And it can help looking around too and grounding and being like, okay, I'm in my house. I notice all the pink things in the room. There's no danger. There's no threat. It's okay. Okay, and last question. What do you do when your safe person isn't available and you need to self-soothe? I think this is so important, because there's some people that are like hyper independent, like don't need no man, I'll do it myself, like I don't ask for help. And then obviously equal and opposite, some of us that learn to be able to soothe, but with other people or with another person that we can co-regulate with. So I mentioned this earlier, but like the difference between co-regulation and self-regulation, the skills are honestly very similar. It's just, do you have someone supporting you doing it, or are you doing it on your own? And a lot of times, like, we can't really do it on our own until we've experienced it with a trusted other person. If it's never been modeled to us as kids, if our parents never really co-regulated with us, then it's really hard to know what it feels like exactly. We haven't like trained our body to be able to do it. But once we, grow up a bit, if we did have a parent that co-regulated, we begin to move naturally. It's developmentally appropriate to move into some more self-regulation, where you won't always need your parent to be there to help calm you down. You can do that. You have the internal resources on your own to be able to soothe yourself. And so if you're one of those people that really struggles when your safe person, or maybe your safe pet, isn't around, think about what helps when you are with them. So do they like breathe with you? Is there loving touch? Do they help ground you and take you outside? Do they make you laugh? Like, what is it that really helps when you're in their presence? And see if you can do some of those things on your own. And I would say, really, if this is a big struggle, practice at times when you're not super activated. Give yourself a chance to build the muscle before you really need to use it. It's like, if I never worked out my core, and then all of a sudden somebody throws a 50-pound box at me, I'm like, I might hurt myself in the process of trying to lift that or hold it, because I haven't built up the strength yet. So we want to think about it like that. You want to build up the strength so that when an emotional wave or something does happen, you have the foundation and the muscle there to be able to handle it. Okay, well, that's all the questions. Shop's closed now, thank God, because honestly, it's about 80 degrees in my house. I'm literally not kidding. Because I signed up for this like money saving thing where during rush hour, I guess the electricity, I don't know who controls it, but somebody controls my thermostat, and it basically like turns off to conserve electricity, and then I save money. But that means it's 80 degrees inside. So I need to go stick my head into the refrigerator and chill out for a little bit. So I'm going to close up shop here, but I hope this was helpful. And as always, send me your questions at 512-655-9888 so you can hear them featured in an episode very soon. And if you liked this, if you found any of this really helpful or a good reminder to you or something you hadn't heard before, please think about giving me a 5-star review. It takes 2 seconds, but it is incredibly helpful to me. So I would really appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.